Words I'd use to describe Three Sisters would be engaging, confusing, and comical. Engaging as while watching it, I felt very attached and interested in the plot at hand. Confusing because while I was listening to every word said, it felt like some aspects of the plot didn't make complete sense. And comical because although it was not intended as a comedy, at least I don't think, there were many comical and laugh out loud moments in the play. Um, I saw Three Sisters on Thursday night, which was February 22nd at 8 p.m., which is last night as when I'm recording this, which was what I believe is opening night. I stayed for the entire play, although I did see a lot of people leave at intermission, but not because I think they were bored or weren't enjoying it, but more because I think they thought that the play had ended. Um, Not sure what happened there. And I also wrote the script with my own knowledge, having viewed the play in its entirety in person. So, the playwright of Three Sisters is Anton Chekhov, a very famous playwright. The genre that I believe fits the play the best would be drama, but it also has many themes of a tragedy. Like from the start to finish of the play, it fits entirely in line with that of a drama, but the ending also feels a lot like how a tragedy would end. Um, the central protagonist of the play was difficult to pinpoint, as multiple characters felt like as though they could have been the protagonist. But I'd go with the youngest of the three sisters, Irina Prozovorov. I don't know if I'm saying any of those names right, but I would have her as the central protagonist. Throughout the play, Irina fights to move back to Moscow so she and her sisters can continue to live the lives that they miss, having moved to wherever, I don't think it's actually specified, 11 years ago, at the time of the start of the play. I believe the climax of the play is at the beginning of the final act, when we learn that the soldiers' platoon is being relocated and that all the sisters' newfound lovers will have to leave them while they still fail to leave for Moscow. The language of the play felt very formal and classy and poetic of sorts. The play switched between like these long speeches and characters cutting one another off with like back and forth dialogue. One character in particular that had a very different sense of language than the others, however, was and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly again, Sol Yoni. He was the short soldier, the one that was very rude and stuff. As he spoke more crudely and much less sophisticated than the rest. This was likely due to his rough and shy nature. There were also multiple repeats of imagery and noises in the play, such as the sights outside of the window of the home, like the wind and the flames. So the director of the Binghamton rendition of The Three Sisters was Will Pomerantz, and the stage used in it was the proscenium, with just like the audience in front of the stage, like the stage and just the audience right there. I would say that overall, the cast fit the roles quite well. They also did very well working together. But in terms of diversity, while having mostly white actors, they did a very good job of having both BIPOC actors as well as members of different genders playing certain roles. I feel as though the casting did a good job of dealing with one of the many issues with theater currently being the diversity. A specific moment of the play where there was a very interesting staging moment was in the first act when the characters were having lunch together in the background of the stage, while other characters were in the living room on the forefront of the stage. Despite the characters in the back being the ones speaking, the ones in the front had the attention, leading to a very interesting scenario. It made the audience focus on both groups of characters at once, the ones in the front because of their actions, and the ones in the back because of their conversation. The actor I wish to speak about in this section is Aidan Gerds, who played, oh boy, Cooligan, I think is how you say his name. I actually knew Aidan before this play. He was my discussion partner in my English class last semester, and from then I knew he was a really good actor, especially when he was like reading out aloud in class. His voice was just super amazing. And I this play really proved that to me. His voice was perfect for the role. He was able to project his voice perfectly, and he had like a sense of power and elegance all at the same time, which just portrayed the character's personality perfectly. His body language was also spot on. It really truly conveyed like to the audience what his character was feeling at the moment. And his accent and timing were also spot on. I just feel like everything he did just embodied the character perfectly and truthfully. A specific moment where he shined was in the third act, during the bedroom scene, when he kept coming on and off stage, like asking relentlessly where Masha was. Like each time he asked differently, he came back from a different location of the theater, and it was just amazing. Like one time he came from the side and through like the door they had set up. One time he came from like the front of the stage. One time he came from behind me. Like I heard the door open behind me, and I just assumed it was someone who went to the bathroom and came back. But I see Aiden, he's walking right past me. And walks around to the stage and he's talking like, where did Masha go? She's not here anymore. Like every time he came back, I was just ecstatic to see him on stage because I think he was truly the star of the show. Another moment where he shined was in the final act, when after the soldiers left, he comforted the saddened Masha, despite knowing that she was now in love with someone else. Like he truly encapsulated the character's emotions and body language in that moment. Like the character we were built up to not like so much truly came around and showed why he is actually like a kind of great character, and Aiden perfectly encapsulated that vibe in the scene. Now, if I had to choose one designer to speak about, I think it'd have to be the clothing designer, who was Devin Painter. She did an amazing job at capturing the time period and location in the clothing choice. Like there were many different character costumes for each character, and each time a new costume was worn by one, it was like super noticeable. And but it also made a lot of sense with the character. So a specific moment where the clothing choice was amazing was with Natasha in the first act of the play, where she was given a very, as was put in the play, ugly clothing choice, which helped capture who she was as a character. She was wearing a very long dress that just did not match with her shirt, as well as a band or like a band around her waist. I don't really know exactly what to describe it. I'm not a fashion person. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a band that did not fit whatsoever. The colors were all off. It was terrible, which what made it great. It was done to portray who she was as a character and how she's like a very socially awkward person and why all the other characters disliked her. Um, and I think this led to one of my favorite moments from the play, actually, which is where the clothing choice was also amazing, which was in the final act of the play, and once again involved Natasha. And by at this point in the play, she'd like abandoned all sense of her awkwardness, and she became a truly like out there character. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. And this is like reflected in her clothing choice, which is like now like that of one of the three sisters from early on in the play, and she even makes note of that and like how the sisters like are dressing poorly compared to her now, like the sisters, because the costumes for them also changed, and now in comparison, Natasha looks like some goddess, and she makes note of that. Yeah, and like the clothes she wears is like almost identical to the sisters. And she even says to one of the sisters, I actually forgot which one it was, unfortunately. And she said that that sister is dressed exactly like how Natasha was in Act One, which really and like she said to her like saying like, hey, your clothes are kind of ugly. It really showed the flipping character traits between the two. So I would say that overall, the work felt very similar and as though it was in the same world, which is a very good thing in my opinion. Everything felt like it was connected and done with intention, which is the best way to go about a project like this. The artist, I think, wanted the audience to think about the characters after viewing the play, and how happy endings aren't always the case. Like, more often than not, happy endings don't occur, and I believe that was what the artist wants to think about when leaving the theater. And after watching Three Sisters, I learned a lot about how important it is for actors to truly fit their roles. Like, when a person fits their character, both in how they look and act, I think it just makes the experience all the more believable and, in turn, better. It truly is night and day when looking at actors who fit the roles and those who don't. It makes all the difference.